What are you making?
I'm mixing up a stew to give corporate a different view. Have a taste. Welcome to the Corporate Kitchen. I'm your host, Tiger, and today on the menu is business travel. There are 2 episodes this month that I'm really excited about recording. This week's episode of business travel and next week's episode as well. I won't give any spoilers to next week's episode, but between those two, super excited to record these. For business travel, it's more about the personal touch more than it is the business. Business travel is something that I believe is really cool. I've had the experience to enjoy it many a times. And one of those things that you highly, highly recommend to people. If you've never traveled in your life, business travel may give you the opportunity to do that travel. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the episode. So to get started, like we always do, according to the Merriam-Webster, the definition of business travel, let's see, there are 10 definitions for business as a noun and 3 for travel as a verb. Business seems pretty long, so bear with me while we stir through this. 1A, a usually commercial activity engaged in as a means of livelihood, like a trade. 1B, a commercial or sometimes an industrial enterprise. 1C, dealings or transactions, especially of an economic nature, patronage. 2A, a role, function. 2B, an immediate task or objective, a mission. 2C, a particular field of endeavor. 3, affair, matter. 4A, personal concern. 4B, right. 5A, serious activity requiring time and effort and usually the avoidance of distractions. 5B, maximum effort. 6, creation, concoction. 7, movement or action such as lighting a cigarette by an actor intended especially to establish atmosphere, reveal character, or explain a situation. 8, a damaging assault. 8B, rebuke, tongue lashing. 8C, double cross. 9, a bowel movement. 10, purposeful activity. Travel as a verb gives us 1A, to go on a trip or as if on a trip or tour, a journey. 1B, to go on as if by traveling, pass. 1C, to go from place to place as a sales representative or business agent. 2A, to move or undergo transmission from one place to another, to withstand relocation successfully. 2B, to move in a given direction or path or through a given distance. 2C, to move rapidly. 3, to take more steps while loading a basketball than the rules allow. That's a lot of good education there for business and verb. I swear I thought the phrase giving him the business was slang, but per the dictionary, that's actually accurate, a damaging assault. Okay. And then I also kind of forgot bowel movement for pets, we call them doing their business. Again, I always thought that was slang, but no, that's a legit dictionary definition. Okay, awesome. And then for travel, obviously there is the standard going on a trip versus basketball, which that definition is written so perfectly to take more steps that they didn't even identify the number of steps because they know nowadays the 2-step rule is kind of fake now. People take 3-4 steps and they don't even get called for travel. However, for this episode on business travel, we need to combine 2B for business and 2A to get an immediate task or objective to go on or is as if on a trip or tour. You can also search business trip directly in the Merriam-Webster, and it does come up as a trip made as part of one's work, which is more directly related to what we're going to talk about. However, I think it's always good to do the activity of educating ourselves on what the definition of these words mean. As we talked about in previous episodes, when we take the sum of the parts and put them together, just like any dish, lasagna or a cake, the sum of its parts can create something better than if you went direct with a, you know, just add water and here it is type mix. So I'm glad we go through these exercises. All in all, though, I do want to get back to what we were talking about earlier of business trips are exciting and they are a great opportunity for you. So we're just going to go straight into the first takeaway. Business trips are an opportunity of a lifetime. There are many people that don't have the means, and I mean, like maybe financially or even personal, to be able to afford and go on travel by themselves or on their own. There is an entire world, whether you believe it's flat, rounded, whatever, you believe that there is a world out there. We live on planet Earth. It is made up of plenty of countries, cities, towns. There's more to this place than where you currently live or the city that you currently work in. When you are given an opportunity to do some travel, you can now be able to get exposed and experience to somewhere outside of your city. This is an opportunity you have to take. This is an opportunity that you should take to go and experience stuff that you've never ever experienced in your life or that you don't see in your day-to-day life. If we take the United States alone, we have very different cultures, foods, experiences, ways of life in the different parts of our country. The Northeast of America, that's also called the New England area, very different from the South, very different from the Midwest, very different from the Pacific Northwest, very different from the West Coast. And even within those larger regions, if we break them down even further, let's say the South, there's a big difference between Alabama South and Florida South, North Carolina and Georgia. Out on the West Coast, big difference between a California versus a Nevada. It is amazing to see how big our country and places are in general and how different that they can be even within a very close vicinity. Your state may be big, it could be small, but I guarantee you, as you drive or travel from one part of your state to another, it's completely different. Just the way that they go about their lives, and even the climate might be different as well. And it's very great experience for you to go get. And it's an opportunity. When I say business travel, the key thing here is the business is paying for this. And this is what makes it an opportunity. I haven't met someone that works at a company that the company requires them to travel and they have to pay for it 100% and they get no type of reimbursement. It has to come out of pocket. It's not put in their salary or anything. I haven't met any person like that. So if you are someone, let me know. Send me a text. From as far as I know, business travel paid for by the company. No dime comes out of your pocket. For the company I work for, which is not uncommon at all, we get company credit cards. So all our business expenses go on the company credit card. Doesn't even touch my credit card. Doesn't touch any of my finances at all. Keep them separate. Always keep business and personal finances separate. And all the expenses can go on the corporate card. We also have the ability in my company as well to upload a lot of your profile information to the booking system. Profile information, I mean by like your rental car profile, your airline profile, your hotel profiles to accumulate points. One of the coolest things about consultants, we talked about consultants last week, is that they go on so much business travel that if they're consistent about the airline and the hotel brand that they use, and even the rental car agency, they'll accumulate enough points to where they could use those points to cover an entire personal trip. You see this all the time. And some of you listening may be the second generation of a consultant who gave you all their hotel points. I have a couple friends who their parents gifted them millions of hotel points. Pretty cool thing to happen. And that opportunity comes about because of taking business trips. Now, at the end of the day, it is an opportunity. So if you're someone that has never flown before, you're too scared to go on an airplane, you've never driven outside of your town, this may get you out your comfort zone. I mean, this is very much like eating sushi. When we talk about sushi, there are people that shy away from it, that haven't had it, who thinks that, hey, I don't want the raw fish in my sushi, not knowing that you can actually have it cooked, or I don't like cream cheese or this vegetable or eel. I don't want that, not really knowing that sushi is like one of those things that there's so many varieties of sushi, and you have to try it before you can make a determination of, hey, I don't like it or I don't. Sushi is unique because of that variety. If you don't like it in a certain form, you can try a different form. If you don't want the raw fish in there, you can have tempura and they will cook the shrimp and you'll have cooked shrimp in there. I say that and I'm pushing the variety part because that also exists in this opportunity for business travel. If you have a fear of flying is not the only way to get to a destination. There are opportunities to drive. Mind you, depending on how far the destination is, you may not be able to be given that opportunity if it's beyond, let's call it a 4 to 5 hour drive. If you have to drive 12 hours to get there, they may say, hey, let's give it to someone else that's willing to fly. But there's different flavors of traveling. You can drive, you can take a train, you can take a plane. There's also domestic travel and international travel. And for most companies, the international travel from the US abroad will come with benefits and perks that you don't see on the domestic travel. What do I mean by that? The people listening that have taken international travel, like myself, definitely know what I'm talking about here. Instead of putting you in economy, they may upgrade you. Hey, you're flying for the company on a much longer flight. We won't send you from here to Australia on that 20 plus hour flight in economy. We'll upgrade you. Or, you get to stay in a nicer hotel, or maybe you get a driver depending on the country that you're in because you're not familiar how to drive in that country. A lot of different perks like that, and a lot of different flavors and variety of travel depending on your level within the company. They may be different perks that's related to your level, meaning as a manager, you get a certain level of benefits, but if you're an executive, you can get a higher level of benefits. For the common folk, we see this when it comes to the chief executive officers, the CEOs. They usually fly on the company jet. That's a whole different level of business travel. I think it's the new Starbucks CEO that takes the company jet from California to Washington. Different variety of travel. But I do want to put an emphasis on, if the opportunity is there to present it, there's different ways to address that opportunity. So if you're, again, afraid of flying, maybe there's an opportunity to drive to a destination and then you drive there. If you don't like staying at Marriott's, I've never met a company that said you have to stay in a Marriott. Maybe if you work for Marriott, you have to stay in a Marriott, but I've never met a company that was that strict right there. You go with Hilton or IHG or someone else and be able to have that flexibility and variety and the opportunity to travel. Again, with sushi as well, too, once people try it, then they can make a decision on it and be like, oh, I like it. And I'm gonna go to all you can eat sushi and give me all the travel you can get. I love this stuff. Just give it any opportunity I have. I'll take it. If it's all I can have, that's all I will do. And then there are people that try it. I don't like it, can't do it. Yes, I know there's different varieties. I had it with raw meat. I know I can get tempura, but no, thank you. I'm not willing to try it again. And when you met those people, and here's the key part. You get to the point where some people have so much sushi They did all you can eat sushi 30 times in a year. And they did that for 10 years. And now after that, they're like, I can't do any more sushi. I'm sorry. Like, I used to live off sushi. I just can't do sushi anymore. And that's that. They get like that about travel too, where they've traveled so much in their career, you get tenured and you're like, been there, done that, can't do it anymore. Also, could be a situation of, I can only eat sushi that's very well prepared. What do I mean? Can't eat dollar store sushi. Same thing with travel. Some people are like, I have um, obstacles that don't allow me to do certain levels of travel. Like, I can't sit in a car for 2 hours to drive somewhere. I knew someone with a exemption that needed the more comfortable seats on the flight, so they were upgraded every time by the business so that they can get more comfortable. There are some people that's like, hey, I have personal matters that only allow me to travel in a certain radius. That stuff happens too. But all in all, it is definitely like try it. Try it, try it, try it. And when you do, make sure you remember you are representing the company on your travel. I think that's sometimes forgotten when people travel, that if you're going from home base, which is, your office could be headquarters or it can be a satellite office, or you can be remote. You're going from that home base to destination A. The entire period of leaving home base until you physically walk in destination A is representative of the company. You are a representative of the company, and that's the second takeaway. You're a representative of the company at all times. When you carry yourself at the airport, getting your rental car, checking in on a hotel, having dinner, you're still a company person. That means that anything negative that happens is not only going to be fault and shame on you, but it could negatively impact the company. If you are out drinking and you have too much to drink, remember, you're not home. You're not at home base. Who's going to take care of you? Who's going to be able to cover for you? Not saying that you want someone to cover. It's just a thought process of you're away from home, from friends, your own company time. You get wasted. No one's there to take care of you. Now you got to take care of yourself. And oh, by the way, now you have to go to destination A plastered. That's not a good representation of the company. If you are rude on your flight, if you book the flight through the company, they can easily identify that you're a business client and could report back to the company how your behavior was, or even worse, if your behavior is that bad, you can get kicked off, be put on a no-fly list. And that is not a conversation that you want to have with your company of, hey, I can't travel on the airline anymore because I got placed on a no-fly list. Same thing with a rental car company. I mean, if your behavior is horrible, it doesn't matter which company you work for, they could refuse to serve you. And that is a awkward conversation to try to have with your company of your behavior was so bad, they don't want to serve you. Now, the flip side, right? I don't want to be negative the whole episode or make it seem like, oh, that's scary being a part of the company. Because the flip side, too, is that also could be super positive and lead to benefits if your behavior is great. If you're carrying yourself as a company person and you work at a prestigious company, people tend to be nicer to you. I'm going to talk about it at the table plenty of times where I've sat on a flight in sometimes first class and sometimes in economy, where the flight attendant was walking through and doing their final checks and literally stopped to me and said, Mr. Tiger, we thank you and your company for flying with us. And the people next to me will look at me and be like, what do you do for a living? And I'm just like, nothing, nothing at all. But it's pretty cool to get. Everyone likes to be pampered and peppered up. And some of these companies you work at, you go to places and they're like, oh, you're Mr. Miss Mrs. such and such working at this company. Oh, we have to take you to the corporate clients area and make sure we take care of you. And it's a good feeling. Also, on top of that, you get pampered on something that you don't have to pay for. If someone else is paying for it, it's a pretty good feeling. I know some companies have the mindset of we want you to be as comfortable as possible for your travel because when you get to destination A, we're going to work you. We're going to work you really hard. So we want your travel to be as seamless as possible so that you're well rested and well adjusted by the time you're at destination A so that we can put you to work. Other companies are like, yeah, we see traveling as a luxury. You need to do the cheapest possible option that gets you there in a meaningful amount of time. If Amtrak was faster, we would probably put you on that, but obviously it's not. So, take a Frontier flight out to a place that Frontier doesn't even serve, and we'll see you when you get out there. And it makes it difficult to be able to be your best self in those types of situations sometimes because it's like traveling's a hassle and then you have to work when you get to destination A. And some people don't want to take those opportunities if traveling is a hassle. Understand that. But most companies are the former of we don't want to make the travel a hassle. I need you there at destination A. And sometimes they may combine it. You may be traveling for a week going to destination A, B, C, D, E. I need you as comfortable as possible to do that because when you get to those destinations, we're going to put you to work and we need you to work. I've done, again, I'll talk more at the table, but I've done plenty of times where I've traveled 4 or 5 destinations in one entire trip. And it's hard. It's not easy. I mean, going back to sushi, right? That's like if you bought a boat, obviously the boat's not going to have one type of sushi, it's going to have different types of sushi. And some sushis you're going to like more than the others. Some destinations you're going to like more than the others. But when you have a whole palette where it's like, all right, now it's not just a California roll. We're going to get you California roll, Philadelphia roll, dragon roll, this roll, that roll, 5 different rolls. And now you got to eat them all. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not that hungry. I'm not that itching for travel, but this is the opportunity provided to me. This is what I'm being served. Are you going to eat it or not? And it gets difficult, right? It's like, hey, I'll only do that once in a while. If I'm like super hungry, didn't eat anything all day, I may be able to eat all 5 of those sushi rolls. Same with the travel. If you have to travel to multiple destinations in one go, that gets hard. It does get hard, especially when you mix in international as well. Time zones make a difference. Time zones are rough. And I would say when you're doing international travel, if the company allows it, give yourself some time to adjust if you can. I mean, even just the night before arriving so that you can have that night to adjust. It may not fully happen, obviously, but at least you're giving yourself some time. And with the international travel too, that's one more layer of complexity when we talk about representing yourself as a company person, because now, not only when you do your international travel, are you part of that company, but even if that company is a worldwide global company, you're the US branch. So you can't walk into another country, get to destination A. It may be like another facility, right? It could be your company is a global company, you're going to a remote satellite facility in another country, and that's your business travel. When you get to that facility, you're not, hey, here is like my local compadre, like my colleague. This is the US office and the company person. I mean, it's almost like you're working at a sister company, despite the fact that you might be under the same umbrella. So you would be representing yourself as a US based employee. That adds complexity to the representation part because now you may be getting into different cultures, different work ways of doing stuff. Could be all under the same company, but they just do stuff differently and the ways they go about it could be different. And you have to make the adjustment for that, but also make sure from your posture standpoint and what you're bringing, you're not coming off as disrespectful or that you're just self aware to know that the people, the audience that you have may not interpret everything the same way that we would inside the United States. Therefore, stay aware and make sure we hold to the highest values and we show a good representation of the company. And I'm sure you'll do fine. It's something to be enjoyed. Travel is something to be enjoyed. The experience that you get are super high, but it is business travel. It is work, right? One of the definitions of business had to do with working. Like it's the task, it's the objective, it's the mission. You are going there for work, not pleasure. Otherwise, it would be called a leisure or a vacation. You are there for business, so don't forget you are representing the company the whole time. The last takeaway I do want to get into, and right before I get into it, I want to go back to the sushi for a second. With sushi, we usually do, or I shouldn't say we, a lot of people will do wasabi, soy sauce, some type of additive to enhance the sushi. The wasabi for the spiciness, the soy for the saltiness, and a little bit of flavor added. And some people do other stuff. Some people will have the ginger before they switch into different sushis so that they can clear their palate. Same thing's true at business travel. There are certain things that you can do to enhance your trip. Very common, popular one, and why I want to bring this up is if you're traveling internationally, more than likely they're going to try to make sure you're there for a maximum amount of time. It's not really financially reasonable to send you overseas to be out there for 2 days if you're a non-executive, right? It's like kind of want you there for a week or maybe even 2 weeks. If you're out there for 2 weeks, that means you're going to have a weekend. That means that for potentially 2 days, you're not working. You're still a representation of the company, but you're not working. What does that mean? That means you can enhance your trip. Depending on where you're at, if you're in a country you've never been, hey, now you can go see some sights. Now you can maybe go to a museum. Now you can go to that restaurant that you didn't have the opportunity to go to because you guys had to have meals with the people that were from Destination A. And it really enhances the trip. I'm going to be able to give you examples when we get to the table, but this is probably the most exciting part of travel is when you get to do those enhancers, when you have time on that trip, whether it's before you get to destination A or before you leave destination A, to do other stuff. If it's domestic, it's like, hey, I'm flying out to California. I'm supposed to be there for a week. We finished everything. I'm going to go to the beach, finish my work. I'm on my time, but representation of a company. I'm going to go to the beach. We're in Florida. I'm going to go to the beach and be able to enjoy myself because we finished the work and my flight's not due yet. And those type of enhancers really, really, really add to the fun that is travel because there's one portion, which we're going to get into takeaway 3 of the experience of the education from where you're going. But the second part of it is you get to enjoy things that you may not be feasibly able to do on your own. You don't have the money to go to Florida. Okay, cool. The company is sending you to Florida for a week. Oh, and by the way, finish your work early. You've never been to the beach in Florida, so now you're enjoying the beach in Florida. Yay, you. You're going to Texas, and there's a restaurant that you always wanted to try because you saw it on YouTube. You guys finished your work. Your flight's not for another day. You don't have to meet everybody else for dinner. Guess what? Now you can go to the restaurant. Hey, you have family in another state. You don't live in that state, but now you get to travel to that state for the company. Company's paying for it. You finished all your work. You're now done with your work. Your travel's not until, the next day. Hey, I'm going to go see some family. It's really amazing some of the things that you can accomplish on your own once you finish your work and in between the work that's being done at destination A and when you have to travel. And again, it also could be before you get to destination A, you fly in and you flew in a day early, so you're going to see them tomorrow. So you have dinner with your family that night because you never met with the team yet to have the discussion of going out to dinner with the team. It truly is, truly, truly is a great experience. And I don't want you to forget about that. But again, it's an adder. It's not the primary, it's an adder. Just like the wasabi and the soy sauce, the base is the sushi. You don't need it, but you can add it for an enhancer. When you do your business travel, the base is getting to destination A and doing what you need to do at destination A. If time permits and the opportunity is there, you can add those enhancers to it. Going back to the base and the part one learning that I mentioned earlier, the third takeaway is business travel is a great, great, great education tool. What I find really amazing is how different companies could be at different facilities. You have a global companies headquartered in one state in the United States of America, and they have facilities. Let's just say they have facilities in all 50 states. Keep it simple, including Alaska and Hawaii. Obviously, Alaska and Hawaii would seem different than everyone else in the continental United States. So I I did say all 50 states, but those would be two outliers. However, if we did just California, Texas, Florida, New York, and let's say Chicago, those facilities would be completely different. And let's go even more specific, right? Let's do cities like Miami, Los Angeles, let's do Dallas, Chicago, New York City. All of those facilities would be completely different, despite the fact that let's call New York headquarters. The Los Angeles facility will be night and day. Traveling there and getting the education of how that facility operates despite being the same company, it's just more tools in your pocket. When we talk about becoming a subject matter expert, one of the things that we do have to keep at the top of our minds is that we're biased and we grow bias to where we work. You're working at the New York office at headquarters. You're learning the New York way. You have to make sure you keep an open mind because when you get to LA and the Los Angeles office, bringing the New York mindset and the New York mind may not work at the Los Angeles office despite being the same company. And that's within the same company. Imagine if you're going to a different company, whether it's the customer, whether it's a supplier, whether it's a potential vendor, whether it's something totally different. If it's not even the same within the same company, going to a totally different company just exponentially adds to that and changes it. You can't bring that same mindset. You have to come with an open mind to learn. Even if you're there, let's say as a consultant, to help improve the organization, well, the step one to be able to improve the organization is you got to learn the organization. You have to take the opportunity to open your mind, learn the organization, get that input before you can give output. We talked about this in manager feedback, right? You have to ask those probing questions to get that input before you can give output. That input is education. You are educating yourself so that you can be prepared and make sound judgment, great decisions in that output. Get that education. Business travel is a great opportunity for that education where you learn a lot about the different parts of the United States or the different parts of the world. You can learn different silos that exist in ways about doing things and ways of life. Some people, well, here's a really popular one. The West Coast is 3 hours behind the East Coast in the United States. So their workday completely different from ours. We will wake up on the East Coast at a certain time and end the day. Let's call ending the day at 5. At 5 o'clock, we end our days, p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 2 o'clock Pacific time. So we on the West Coast are like, wow, 2 o'clock? All my East Coast partners, colleagues, customers are done. What happens to us now? Think about that. You're working on the East Coast, you end your day. The West Coast is still working. West Coast still has 3 hours left. You see how that changes the dynamics a little bit? Now you wake up in the morning and it's like, I want to start my first meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning. West Coast is 5 o'clock in the morning. The dynamics just from the time zone changes alone creates a different type of work hours and support hours that happens. Now add international folks to the mix, and now you're talking about plus or minus 8 to 15 hours. Crazy, right? It's just a lot of education that can happen there. And that's just from a time base. When you talk about the culture, when you talk about the way of, like, even if they're building the same thing, say it's a manufacturing company, you're building it in New York, they built the same exact thing in LA, guarantee you they'll build it differently in LA and New York. You'll have a problem in New York and call the LA office to say, hey, do you have that same problem? And they're like, no, I don't understand why you guys have that. You fly down to LA, you see how they do it, and you're like, wow, we don't even do it like that. Maybe we should do it that way in New York. And you get to New York and you try it and it works, or it doesn't work because we're just that different. That education piece will make you such a better leader. If you can remove the bias from the area that you're in and really step out of that shell, talk to everyone, and when I say talk, ask those probing questions to everyone in order to gain that input so that you're not thinking on a micro scale, but on a macro scale, and by macro, global, keep that global mindset and just keep gathering that input. You'll grow and you'll make sound judgment for the entire company. So with that, we'll start to wrap this up. Again, business travel, great opportunity. I highly recommend it. I can't wait till we get to the table so I can give you some examples. There are plenty of examples that I have in my career, so I will be able to share some really good ones with you at the table. But what we talked about here, number one, it is an opportunity. It is a great opportunity. I can't stress that enough. Again, a lot of people don't have the means to travel to some of these places. If the company is paying for it, why not do it? Take that opportunity, even if it's one time. It's one time, you don't like it. I don't like sushi. Cool, that's fine. But at least you took the opportunity and you found that for yourself instead of being in the dark and never knowing that you didn't like it because you didn't try it. 2, you're always representing the company. Careful of your posture. Remember, it is business travel. The first word is business. Your company is hosting and requiring you to make this commitment and going from one place to another, but for the company, not for you, for the company. So you can have those adders on top of it if time permits, but you are representation of the company first and foremost and always on that trip. But when you add both of 1 and 2, it gets you to the third where it's like learn, opportunity to learn. We talked a lot about learning from the actual destinations because the focus is on primarily the traveling to the destination, the work you have to do in the destination, but you can also learn how to travel. I know many people that were ignorant to how to book flights, how to book rental cars, how to even get we're going to talk about this at the table, but funny, if you want to see if someone has sense of direction or not, just see how they travel. When they land at the airport, a lot of people say Hartsfield-Jackson in Georgia is a very frustrating, difficult airport. Same with O'Hare in Chicago, that they hate that airport. It normally comes down to people can't read. There are signs that will tell you how to get to baggage claim, how to get to the rental car facility. And a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people don't have this sense of direction to be able to navigate themselves to where they need to be. It's going to teach you how to do that, and a lot of times how to do that on your own. How do you navigate the world on your own? And with that, we'll turn off this stove, take off the thinking apron, and let's just say the dishes will get done later. This topic wasn't a big mess, but if we learned something today, then we know there's a little cleaning up to do. I do want to talk this topic more, maybe trade stories about this soon, like this Thursday soon. I hope to see you there. Thanks for being in the corporate kitchen today. I'm your host, Tiger. Until next time.